Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I have a new layout to share for Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm going to be using mostly the Out and About collection. It's their travel themed collection, and I just love these bright colors. And I'm going to be using a cut file from the Cut Shop, and this is called Out of Line Alpha, and it's basically an alphabet set that's kind of crooked and wonky. And here's my photo for today. I printed it in black and white. It's a picture of my husband and my two girls were walking home from the park one day. The park is just down the street from our house, and I thought it was a cute picture. And so I'm going to make it work with all of these travel themed papers and embellishments. And so this is a technique that I love to do, and that is back cut files. And they're just 4 letters here, so this did not take very long. But what I did is I just sorted through the papers. You can see here I've already used bits and pieces from a lot of these papers already. And I just flipped it over backwards and flipped the paper over backwards and traced it, cut it out, and now I'm just going to glue it behind the open spot. And I love doing this. I think this is a fun and easy way to get lots of different patterns or lots of different colors and papers on your layout, but not to the point to where it's too much, because you're using, you know, pretty busy papers like this striped paper here in a small bit. So it's just enough to get the point across of what's on that paper. So I love this striped paper. I love rainbows, and these bold colors are just my favorite. So that's all I'm going to do here right quick is get these letters backed, and then I can start to arrange them. And I think I'm going to do a design like this, a horizontal design with the photo kind of in the middle of the 4 letters and kind of overlapping, or having the letters kind of overlap the photo. So I'm going to do some mixed media. So I decided to go with a white cardstock background, and this is thick white cardstock from Basil. So it can handle gesso and watercolors and things like that pretty well. And so I have my little paint tray here that I've used for all of my Pink Fresh Studio layouts. I'm using only the Pink Fresh Studio watercolors here and the good old packaging technique. I love this technique. It's proven to work every time, and you can see the cool shapes that you get. It's totally different than using a brush. And so it just depends on what look you want to go for, but I'm using some different colors here. I've already got some mixed up from previous layouts, and here's a tip. If you have a little paint tray like this and your watercolors dry in it, all you have to do is add some water and they activate right back up. And so I've got pretty much every color there, and all of them are dry. So all I'm doing is adding a little bit of water there, and they instantly are ready to go again. So I'm just mixing a couple of blues and kind of aquas here. Since the papers have a lot of reds and yellows and different shades of, you know, there's some light blue, some green. I thought the blue shades on the background would be good. I tend to shy away from a lot of red mixed media just because it reminds me of blood. And so I find that I can handle red just in small doses and not necessarily with the mixed media. And it, you know, it depends on what I'm doing, but for something like this, the size of this big watercolor area, I didn't want to go for red. So I thought the blue would be a nice subtle color. And I'm adding a few drops of white acrylic paint just to lighten some of the areas up, add a little bit of different textures and shading on the background. And I just continue to work on it as I go. I add more of the really pretty aqua color, and every so often I'll bring the cut file back and put it on top of this to see what it looks like, because it just looks like a big blob right now. But when you add the photo and everything back on top of it, it definitely changes how it looks. So another way to do this is just to spray some water on it and pick the paper up and turn it this way and that way and just let the color kind of run and bleed and spread all on its own. Love that look too. My problem is I never know when to stop because yeah, I love doing this, and so it's hard to say, okay, that's enough. But I love how that's looking, and I think it's going to look really pretty with everything put back on top of it. Okay, so most of it's dry. I let it sit for a while. It's still a little bit wet, but it's not going to affect anything that I put on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and add everything back on and see what we've got here. I did add a little bit of darker color of a blue mixed with a little bit of black to kind of pull in that darker teal color that's behind the letter A. So yeah, I kind of darkened it up a little bit. But now I'm just going to go through the rest of the papers and the embellishments and just sort of see what I've got left and see what colors I want to add and what things I want to do. I'm going to cut a couple of pieces from this cut apart sheet that you just saw there. I really love this Go piece, and I'm just going to fussy cut it out and make it into an embellishment. And I'm going to do a lot of overlapping and tucking and creating lots of layers on this page. So the only thing I'm going to add behind my photo is a little bit of tissue paper. I like to do this just to give a little bit of something behind the photo. It kind of gives it a little bit more separation from the background, and yet it's still very subtle. You know, it's not really a color, so it doesn't really distract from anything else going on. So I'm going to glue the R and the O together and the A and the M together so I can move them as big units. And I want to pop those up off the page as well as the photo. So I'm going to add in some adhesive foam behind pretty much everything there. And I'm going to let the O overlap the photo, but then I'm going to put the A underneath the photo. I don't want to add too much on top of the photo. And you know, it always depends on what the photo is, but there's a lot of open area. You know, there's grass and then there's the street, so it's not like I'm covering up any one person, but I still want the effect of we're walking down the street, we're walking on the sidewalk, and I don't want that to get hidden behind a lot of embellishments. But yeah, I went through the stickers, I went through the die cuts, I found a couple of those, and I'm just playing around here and seeing what looks good where. I'm going to use that white adventure piece on top of the R. That's a die cut. That little piece that says yes, it's kind of like a speech bubble up at the top. I found a dimensional sticker that's green that I put on top of the A that says Explorers, and then that On the Road sticker that's yellow, or Hit the Road, that's on top of the M, and it's pointing toward the photo. And I love that. Everything that I picked out just sort of had a perfect spot to go. This paper I love. I've been hoarding it for a while, and I was debating about whether to use it as a background or cut these circles out. And I finally just said, you know what? Cut the circles out. So that's what I'm going to do here, and just sort of decide where they might go. I'm just kind of, you know, playing around. Nothing's really stuck down yet. So I do take some time to cut those out. I want to make sure that they are as close to a perfect circle as I can get just by eyeballing it. This is a little die cut that I really wanted to use because it says, I think it says wandering the neighborhood or exploring the neighborhood, something about the neighborhood. And like I said, we were just down the street. Like if you go to our end of our driveway and look to the left, the public library is right there, and then across the street from the library is the park. And so we were exploring the neighborhood. It's very close to our house, so I wanted to use that circle, and I like the elements of the different circles around the page, and so I'm going to kind of scatter those around like you see there, and that's all from that one paper that I fussy cut. I'm going to add some thread. You know, I love me some thread, and so I pulled out a couple different colors, and right now I'm just adding in some light blue, and it's very subtle. It's kind of tone on tone because it kind of matches the background, and it just adds some texture and adds some interest to the background. And I'm going to go ahead and glue down these circles. I'm going to run most of them off the page, and so I'll have to come back and trim those up. And I'm going to pop up the red one here that says Wandering the Neighborhood. And then the little piece underneath the photos says something about walking. And so I thought that was perfect to use because that's what we were doing. And this collection's great. If you have not seen it yet, it's got things for pretty much every type of travel you can think of. It's got things about flying. It's got things about riding in cars, all kinds of modes of transportation. So it's very versatile for any type of travel, even for walking. So I thought this was really fun to do. So I'm starting to glue it all down. I like the way it looks, and I love when that happens, when I try out an embellishment here and the very first place I try it, I like it and I leave it, because that rarely happens. I usually have to remove it and try it here and try it there, and you know, it never works the first time. And so in this case, for whatever reason, everything just worked the first place I put it. Most things did. Now I'm going to add in a couple more colors of thread here. I decided to add in a pop of yellow thread up at the top corner that I had to mess with a lot because I'd already glued everything down, and so it was not wanting to, you know, loop and nest up in there like I wanted it to. So I had to just say I'll come back to that later. And then I added in a little bit of this darker aqua color down on the bottom, and I do wind up adding more of that color in off camera. Right before I decide to photograph it, I decide to go back in and add more thread, but it's still very subtle. So this is a couple of stickers from the puffy sticker sheet from Joyful Day collection. So I do add in a couple of things from that collection. That little puffy sticker that says perfect moment, and then the one down on the bottom by the Neighborhoods die cut says you are my home. I thought that was good because we were literally right by our home, and you know, home is where your family is, and so I thought that was perfect, and it was the perfect color. And then yeah, I just add in a couple more stickers, make sure they're straight, and then add in my lines. I'm going to do my journaling right underneath the photo here with my black fine tip Sharpie. And then off camera I do add in some black splatters and I think 2 more stickers which I stitched through, but nothing major that's going to change anything. I added another couple little stickers that you can see there, and I just did some black stitching. But yeah, I did add some black splatters and I added the date, but that's the final layout. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I loved making this. I loved how fast it came together for me because I'm a pretty slow scrapper. But everything just sort of clicked and looked right in the spot where I put it. And so that made me happy because I usually have to leave and come back and, you know, take a break. But this just sort of happened and I was very excited about it. So let me know if you have any questions about any of the collection or the liquid watercolors or the techniques, anything at all. And I'll be more than happy to answer. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a great day.